Okay, let's talk about contributing around the house. As I interviewed people and parents, and as we coach parents, one of the great desires of parents is that their kids will contribute around the home without a fight. Now, I cannot promise that our kids will ever get to a point where they are happy and delightful about contributing around the home. I don't think that's in their wiring. And I think that teenagers, in particular, adolescents, just really aren't that jazzed about helping around the home, that they would rather play video games or hang out with their friends, and that you may always get an eye roll or a gee, mom, I wish I didn't have to do that kind of thing. And that's okay. Our goal is to help you eliminate the power struggles that are around it and the defiance and the fighting that's around it so that they are contributing members of your home and you're not doing all the work by yourself. So let's break this down using the wiser principles again. So we're starting with the W, with our warmth. Let's get into our children's minds and try to receive them and see them and validate their experience. It's not too hard for me to imagine not wanting to do a chore. I I don't know how many times it's been 4 p.m. and I thought, oh, I have to cook dinner again. I hate it. I just don't ever like it. And some of you are cooks, and that's awesome. I'm not in the cook category. Making dinner is such a chore to me. But what is it to you that is one of your adult responsibilities that you don't ever look forward to? Maybe it's toilets, maybe it's laundry, maybe it's driving kids everywhere, maybe it's something in the yard, maybe it's going to another 8, 9 hour day of work, day after day after day. Maybe it's cooking like me. So try to imagine what it's like to be asked to do that when you would rather be sitting and reading a book or going for a walk or playing a sport or listening to music or whatever it is that you enjoy doing. Picture being in the middle of that thing that you love to do and then being asked to do the thing that you hate to do. And that is the experience that they're having. And can you see that in them? Can you recognize? Can you receive them for who they are, for not loving having to contribute around the home? Can you let their experience be real and valid to them while still holding your own boundaries? Absolutely. So, things that you might say, chores aren't fun, responsibilities aren't glitzy and exciting, and it's definitely not as cool as watching a movie would be. Totally makes sense. You don't want to do this. Wouldn't it be amazing? When using validation, it's always a fun idea to use some imagination. Wouldn't it be amazing if we had a robot that did all of our chores for us and we could all go play all the time? What would you do? So you're seeing them and their struggle and their frustration and pretending like it wasn't there anymore, but still you're going to be firm about the boundaries. Okay, so that's the W. We're seeing them, we're connecting, we're validating, all of that stuff. And remember, all of those bonding chemicals, those soothing chemicals, that connection in your relationship, that we're using our words for connection instead of correction. This is so critical for parenting. And if we move into all of the other letters without this W, you are not going to have a healthy home or good outcomes. But the way that you can be firm about your boundaries is making sure that you've got this W in your approach. So, with the chores, how can we have that in there? Okay. So, the I, we're going to identify your boundaries. So, what is it to you that's important about chores? For a lot of parents, it's that their kids are learning responsibility, learning work ethic, learning self control. We're going to prioritize responsibility over the things that are fun. For me and a lot of other parents, it's I'm so stinking tired from doing all of the adult things and taking care of all of the people that I need people to contribute around the home, or I am just too exhausted and I shut down, and then I have no energy for any of the fun things. I don't feel that it's right to have multiple people living in a home using it and taking advantage of it without all of us contributing to it and its success. So, all of those different reasons, and you identify your reasons. Be honest with yourself about why chores matter to you. And remember that this is going to help you know what your boundaries are, and that feeling of, oh, this isn't being respected, or like that alarm going off, that resentment, it will tell you that one of your boundaries has been crossed, and we've got to identify what those boundaries are. What is it that was bothering me? Is it that they're showing a total lack of responsibility, a lack of initiative, a lot of poor work ethic, all of those different things? Just being really clear on that. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the S, which is our sharing control. So that's the third letter. So let's brainstorm lots of different ways that you can share control with them. So maybe you have age appropriate chores for 2 up to 18, and they get to choose a handful of those. So they're getting a chance to have some control. So they get to decide if doing the kitchens and doing the bathroom and um, mowing the lawn are all on the list. If they're older kids, then they get to choose like 2 of those. You decide what works for you. These are just ideas on the application. You get the principle. You're giving them some choice. So with little kids, you've got a list of age appropriate chores for littler kids, and you're explaining what they are and allowing them choice. Let them choose maybe which day they get it done on. So for us in our home, we just wanted everything done by Saturday. And hey, you pick the day that you want it done. If you want to do all of the chores on Saturday, whatever. If you want to spread them out so that there's one small chore each day so that Saturday is more open, whatever. And we've given those choices to our tween, and he has tested out different things, trying to figure out what works for him. And that's okay. As long as it's done within the boundary time, then that's great. Then there's no problem on its heels. Okay. So giving them some choice over that. Now, another way that you can give them control is by saying very, very little about the chores. Remember, we want you to not use your words for correcting. We want you to use them for connecting. So you aren't going to remind them about the chores. You aren't going to nag them or yell at them or pester them or whatever. You are allowing them ownership of whether they do them or not. Now, of course, that doesn't work unless we have the E, our fourth letter, that there are earned consequences, earned outcomes of not doing chores. So think into adult life. What would happen if our kids did not have good work ethic, if they did not complete their responsibilities? Say that they didn't go to work, so they didn't earn an income. Would they have money for fun things, or would fun things be gone? So, a natural consequence is that if we aren't finished with our stuff by Saturday, our basic contributions, then extra privileges are gone until those basic things are completed. So that's a way to like shift the ownership from your shoulders onto theirs, that it's a problem for them instead of for you. Now, we did this with our younger child, and she tested to see what we were made of. Saturday came and went, and then so did Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. And we had to take this feedback and see, you know what, this isn't a problem for her. This is a problem for us. Like, her room continues to be messy, but she seems to continue to be able to do fun things. And so we have to be creative about how do we make this her problem instead of ours. And so we had to take that feedback and work with it. Does this mean that she loves to listen to stories on on our phone? So we have like Audible and she'll listen to stories on our phone. So we had to kind of switch things up so that um extra privileges includes like listening to things on the phone, playing with anybody in the home. Like none of us are available to play until the basic contributions are finished. I genuinely don't want to sit down and play with somebody who hasn't done the basic things that I've asked. So it's a very natural consequence. So she's in charge of entertaining herself and she has nothing to entertain herself with. Now, we still see that sometimes she will test how long we will be serious about this. And so we have to be firm about that boundary. Another thing that we've thought of is if chores aren't done by Saturday, then we pay a neighbor kid to do it, and our kids get to pay in chores or toys or cash for that. And they have, like 48 hours to pay for that. And if they don't pay for it, then we can sell their toys on Facebook and make some money for it. So that if it's really important to you that the chores are done, so that the garbages are out and the dog poop is picked up and the dusting is completed, you can handle it that way. But how can you turn the ownership of the problem over to them so it's not a problem for you? So get creative about that. Um, so then the R is to resist the rescue. So you may see your kids testing the boundaries. You may see them about to make a like car crash. And you need to resist rescuing. So we had a child. This was our oldest. He fought us on taking ownership and responsibility of his chores probably for a year and a half. And you guys, that seems like forever, but now he's 12 and we don't fight about chores at all anymore. It's just a non-issue. So it was worth the year and a half to get to this. But there were a couple Saturdays, so he had made the choice to do all of his chores on Saturday. And then he would go to do his chores on Saturday and feel overwhelmed by the amount of chores, which when you're 9, 10, 11, it does seem like a lot of chores all on one day. And he would cry and he would wail like loud, wailing in his room about how unfair it is and how hard it is and he can't do it. And he would try to beg and plead and negotiate. And we had to not engage in any of that. And it was hard. I told you I am a permissive parent by nature. I am a softer parent by nature. So, of course, I'm like, my child is suffering and I need to rescue him from this. And can't we just lighten up on his chores or whatever. But I had to remember we identified our boundary, we gave him control. This is how he is going to learn to connect dots for himself. This is also good for him. And he hates being controlled. So he kind of asked for this because he didn't want my help figuring things out. Anyway, so there were multiple Saturdays where there were fun activities coming up, like birthday parties or a family movie night where people were coming over to watch movies with us. And we had to let him miss out on that. And he wanted us to feel horrible, like it was our fault because we were the meanest parents and all the garbage that is going to get tossed at you. And we had to bite our tongues and just offer some validation and then remember this is ownership, and ownership is uncomfortable, and he's owning this right now, and we will not be rescuing him from this because it is not ridiculous to ask a child to contribute to the home. It was uncomfortable in that moment for all of us. As parents, we had to do some self-soothing to get over it. I have to put in earplugs so that I can't hear the crying and want to go give in. Sometimes I have to leave and leave my husband, who is firmer with boundaries than I am, so that there's no chance that I am going to rescue. But like I said, after a year and a half of doing this, we don't really give reminders at all because that's not what we're using our words for. Sometimes they'll come to us and say, "Hey, can I do my screen time?" And we'll just say, "Are you eligible?" And that's all it will say. "Are you eligible?" Hey, can I go out with a friend? Are you eligible? And then he'll go, ugh, I guess not. But we aren't reminding him to do the things. So we want to remember that we aren't reminding, yelling, nagging, any of those things. We're using our words for connection instead of correction or guidance or car crash avoidance, but letting them experience things. Now, as your kids grow, it is reasonable to expect them to do bigger and bigger chores. That isn't unhealthy. 50, 60 years ago, our kids were really even contributors of the home. They were learning to work the fields really early, helping on the farm, helping around the home. They had the responsibility to help the home run and function. And somewhere in the last several decades, we've thought that it's kids' jobs to just sit around and be comfortable and playing all the time. And it's not really great for their development, and it is not super harmful for them to contribute a reasonable amount. And we recommend Googling age appropriate chores and printing out a sheet of that so that you know things that a 2-year old can do and a 3-year old and a 4-year old. And you can set your expectations realistically so that you can be progressing them throughout their years to be able to manage more and more and more of the home on their own so that by the time that they leave, they know how to do their own laundry, they know how to cook their own food, they know how to take care of their own home. They have those skills and abilities, and they have been gradually guided into the strength to be able to do that so that they don't get out on their own and they're coming to you to do all the things for them still. So choose your hard, do it now, and it will pay off in the end.